Hey there! Welcome to the What's Your Thing podcast, where we're all about great conversations with interesting people.
That's right. I'm Brennan.
And I'm Caitlin.
There's something awesome about every person, a thing that makes them truly unique.
We want to know what it is about everyone, so we're asking,
What's your thing? Hey, everybody. Welcome back to episode 21 of the What's Your Thing podcast. I am Brennan.
I am Caitlin.
21 episodes. We've talked about a lot of different things. We've talked about the film industry. We've talked about medicine. We've talked about trades. And today we're going to get real. I don't think there's any other way to frame it, right, Caitlin?
No, this is probably the realest conversation that we've had. It's the most delicate conversation that we've had, and we're so fortunate to have Taralee Gerhard on to talk to us. She's a film producer, she's a mother, she's a Newfoundlander, and she has graciously come on to talk to us about a scary epidemic that's sweeping the nation. Taralee, we're going to toss it over to you. What are you going to talk to us about today, and why are you going to talk about it?
So I say hi. I'm just your average, mom. Happen to work in film and happen to have a glorious life. But what we are talking about today is the drug and overdose epidemic, pandemic, shall I say, that is sweeping across not just our nation, but also through North America and probably other countries as well, or continents. And just talking about how real it is and how it can really hit home really quickly. So we're going to talk about saving my daughter's life, actually, and still continuing on this journey of trying to find my own passion and dreams at the same time.
When we talk about drug epidemic, what are we talking about in terms of this is more than just like people casually maybe going out and participating in marijuana. This is some synthetic, harsh, scary stuff, right?
Well, I mean, we're in Canada, so marijuana is no longer a drug. At least it's recognized as something that is consumable and actually treated as medicine. So I don't want to touch marijuana in this subject. And actually, I think it could also be used as a tool to help actually heal people who are going through strong addictions. So just to give you a little bit of background of how this all started for me and for my daughter specifically, was the COVID pandemic. In which everybody lost their structure and they lost their way of life, especially young people, the youth that were in high school and trying to graduate and all those sort of things, and all of a sudden their whole social networks just sort of imploded and exploded at the same time. So they had no guidance, they had no gotta be the class, they had no accountability, they had no nothing that they could adhere to or hold on to as part of their core values. And a lot of us, being a film producer, we were actually deemed essential service. So I was actually still away for the whole time, up to 16 to 18 hours a day at a time if I was traveling out of town, which sort of left the youth of our community floundering. Not just people that were, film producers, but there was doctors, there's lawyers, there's, very affluent people within our community. And then all of a sudden, here's these youth who have access to money and they have access to pharmaceuticals and they have access to drugs, and they're bored and they're curious and they're young. And what do? And so for me, that led us down a really dark, twisted path of my daughter discovering an escapism route and dabbling into drugs. So for me, if we're going to talk about drugs, I'm talking about hardcore drugs. I'm talking about things like ecstasy, MDMA, cocaine. Thank God we didn't get into the IV use as like, heroin or freebasing or anything else like that. But there's still a ton of things that kids can do. And unfortunately, it became a huge trend in Ottawa for the kids to have what's called farm parties, where they raid their parents' cabinets and take whatever pharmaceuticals they can out of the cabinets. God knows what they are. Put them all into a bowl, and everybody reaches in and takes 5. You don't know what they are. You don't know how they mix, and let's have them. So it can be
never
scary.
heard of that. That's literally happening right now.
Yeah. So it's like a big bowl of Skittles, right? Like you don't know what's in there.
Oh my God.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say, like, I think a lot of people don't like to associate talking about drugs, you know, they think of it as something that you see on the street, but this is something that's really impacting all kinds of households, right? It's coming into everybody's life.
It's in everybody's life. You know, for example, you could have somebody who is a doctor and they go on a bachelor party and oh, they're going to have fun that one night and have one rail or sniff of cocaine, shall we say, and that could be the one that takes them out. Fentanyl is a major crisis, but it's not just fentanyl. It's the way that drugs interact with each other. And we have kids who are on prescription drugs already, who are playing with prescription drugs or playing with cocaine, which is cut with prescription drugs, etc. So there could be drug interaction, which actually causes the overdose, and not necessarily like the mass usage that we're accustomed to in the past. Wild. Yeah, it's intense. So that happened with my daughter. Her story is her story to tell, but I have some highlights, I guess, if you want to call them those. But her and her group of friends decided, and some of her group of friends, one of them happened to be a pharmaceutical student, and had access. One of them happened to be a child of a doctor. One of them happened to be a child of a pharmacist. And so they had access, and they had access through my household as well. I'm not at fault here as well. I have my own prescriptions, whether it's a pain prescription or it's something for my own ADHD, but they have these farm parties and they get into whatever. But that opens the gateway to then having more drugs and like people saying, oh, let's have some MDMA, let's have a party, let's have some ecstasy. It's gonna be really cool. And I'm not gonna say that I'm, this virgin who has never tried drugs in my life. Of course I have. I think a lot of people have. And I think there needs to be an open, honest communication about that. The problem with my specific daughter is that she actually migrated from using these fun party MDMA, ecstasy type drugs or cocktails and started using cocaine to get off of those drugs. So there's a real lack of truth and education when it comes to like which drug is the strongest and which drug is the least strongest and how they interact with each other. And it took some super sleuthing to figure out what is going on, because we just had wild mood changes, wild changes in sleep patterns, etc. And then one day, I'll get to the catalyst, so we can move on from the introduction and just get to the catalyst. So her friends, right? So everybody says, "Oh, I hung out with my friends," or "we're partying with my friends." Her friends, at least had the courtesy to dump her body into my doorway. I was very grateful that I happened to order a giant thing from Amazon. And so when she did fall into my doorway, it knocked over my Amazon package and woke up my dogs and myself with this loud crash. And then I get downstairs and there's my daughter and she's blue. So I think it's extremely important for all parents to understand CPR and carry an naloxone kit. I'm very grateful that we had that in our house. And I did have to resuscitate my daughter and administer naloxone and call the ambulance.
Wow.
And revive my daughter. So I'm very grateful that I had the knowledge to be able to do that. But that's when I said, we're out of here.
That's
Right.
when you
And I think that's a missing step, is that parents feel helpless and they don't know what to do. And they get paralyzed by guilt and shame and fear of confrontation. And they freeze up. So what did you do? Because I know what you did. It took a lot of courage. So what did you do to get your daughter out of the situation?
So there was two avenues we could have gone. And yes, of course, I took her into the hospital. But at that time, she was 17, turning 18. So she's in this gray area between child health and adult health. There's also a massive wait list. If you're going to get onto the wait list, if you're going to go to treatment, you're going to find treatment better. You're going to find counseling. That's we could have gone that avenue, but that avenue was not fast enough. It was not fast enough. This is a matter of life or death. That's it. And me as a mom, I have a responsibility, and I think we all do as parents have a responsibility to take dramatic, irreversible action. So in that moment, I literally said, that's it, we're gone, we're moving. And within 2 weeks, we had sold absolutely, I would say 95% of our worldly possessions. We had a few clothes and whatnot. I lied to my daughter. And I told her that we would actually be going on a 2 to 3 month like workcation. I got a gig in Newfoundland. Let's go for 2 or 3 months, because I knew if I told her we were leaving for good, that she would not get in that car. But if I told her, hey, I know you're going through some shit and I know you need to talk, sorry for swearing. I know you
all
need to
good,
talk
please.
to me. And I know you need to spend time with me. If I say, I knew if I said, oh, we're going to go for, a determined period of time, that I could at least get her in the car so she could have that mental break and that health break. And it was, it was traumatic, like getting rid of everything we owned and literally loading up my Nissan Qashqai. Flew my friend who already lived in St. John's, Newfoundland to Ottawa. I was filming at the time, Caitlin will remember that, trying to get her in town. And my son is 25. He's 4 years older than my daughter. My daughter's now 21 and happy and healthy, by the way. But my son was 4 years older and I had to let him in on my big plan, and he was like, well, COVID's going on. What am I doing? I'm sitting here doing nothing anyway. So we were all conspiring to do this. And immediately, found a place to live through Facebook Marketplace, sight unseen. It was bonkers, by the way. And just hopped in that car and we drove. And my goal was to get her as far away as possible so that neither she nor her friends would have access to each other. And that's the big thing, is to take that leap of faith and just be like, no, I'm removing you from here to here, and you have no access to your past now, no access. So I literally chose to put an ocean between us. Which,
Isn't it like an 18-hour ferry ride? Once you get
yes.
once you get to New Brunswick, you still have an 18-hour ferry ride and then like a 6-hour trek across the bottom of England.
Well, depending on where you land. So we were fortunate that our ferry went to Argentia. So we only had like a 2-hour from our ferry. But if you're traveling at certain times of the year, you're gonna end up with a 10-hour drive down. The weather in Newfoundland is wild. It's insane. We're part of the islands, so you get a lot of strange weather mixes and stuff. But and my daughter's gone back to Ottawa, back to the mainland, as we'd say, since this time. But it's interesting how quickly those friends fall away and are no longer friends. And how much like just being in nature and like seeing the ocean, like literally standing at the ocean and just screaming. I encourage her, like, just scream as loud as you can. Whatever pain you have inside you, scream as loud as you can. Because when you're facing the ocean and Mother Nature and those waves and everything else like that, you realize just how small we are, right? Like we're just a tiny little speck in the Milky Way in this greater galaxy, this greater system, and we don't even know where that ends. So I just want to circle back to like the point where it's like when you have somebody, or whether it's a loved one or a child, specifically a child, but the point is to immediately remove them from that situation. So you just cut them off, right? It's not fun. I mean, 2 months in, I had to tell her that we weren't going home and we didn't have a home anymore. So she hated me for a bit, but now it's good.
And but that's sometimes what the choices you have to make as parents, because you had a lucrative career in film and television, and here you are saying, I need to move to an island and work at Walmart because my child is the most important thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing for, for my very best friend or my husband or whatever, if that's what it takes. Sometimes we think the only option is the system, and sometimes the system is what keeps you sick.
I would have to agree with that. I mean, we're looking at Ontario and understanding the wait lists of time. People are dying, waiting for access to services. And then sometimes they're super limited. So I think it's amazing that you saw that. I mean, we're so lucky to live in a country where healthcare is free. It doesn't mean it has its challenges. You saw those challenges. You decided to put yourself second. And now your daughter is a makeup artist a special effects makeup artist for film and television, which is incredible.
She's done over 12 movies now as a makeup artist and special effects makeup artist, and continues to thrive. Will she stay in makeup artistry? I don't know. To be honest, I think that she would make a fantastic nurse because her experience and her compassion and her empathy for people throughout this process, throughout her healing journey, which is her journey, right? To delve into what hurt her, what trauma, what is it that made you put that chemical band-aid on in the first place? That's the conversation that we all have to have within ourselves. And maybe she tells me everything, or maybe she just tells me half things. I don't know, because whoever knows what's really going on inside somebody, but her journey is up to her. At least now I know that she's on an island and she can't swim across that ocean to get back to the people who were actually willing to hurt her. And B, there's a whole world out there, whether it's nature, whether it's science, whether it's film, whether it's, fact or fiction, there's a whole world of storytelling out there. And your own story is what needs to be told.
So I think that that's, I know that was a really quick overview, but I thank you for sharing your story. And I think finally, we're talking to parents here, like, what's the one thing that you could say to a mother and a father who have a child in a dangerous situation regarding
You are
drugs?
the parent. You're the parent, not the friend. Number one, it's okay if they hate you. Have an naloxone kit, know how to use it, know where it is at all times. A pro tip, I guess, would be is if your kids are at a party, send them a pizza so you get the address. You're the cool parent, but at least you know where they are.
That's really cool.
Interesting. That's a really good tip.
That's a great life hack.
Yeah, just offer, hey, at midnight, man, I'm going to send you a pizza. Where are you? Boom, right? Just know where your kids are and don't be afraid to fail, because everything else is going to fail you anyway. And you're going to be waiting and waiting and waiting for everybody else to help. But you are the knight in shining armor. Your child is waiting for someone to help them. You're the parent, you're the knight in shining armor, and no one's coming to rescue you as a parent. So you have to be the one to take up arms and just go. Just go.
Can you speak to, if not, we can definitely look it up and post, where people would go for resources to learn to administer things like naloxone and all that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Situation.
So in St. John's, actually, there's a real movement here, even though there's a population of 450,000 for all of Newfoundland. But all the bars right now are actually doing info sessions and training people, even the general public, inviting them out. Like, instead of having trivia at night, they're actually having, hey, we're doing training on naloxone kits, which is awesome. You can also go to Health Canada, like as a general thing. You can do Health Canada and they have little videos and everything else online. Most of the community centers offer programs on how to use them and the signs and symptoms to look for. But honestly, if you just go on the naloxone website, there's a lot of really good training videos out there. And they're free. That's the most important thing. They're free. Go to the pharmacy, ask for one, ask for 10. It doesn't matter. Have it at home. To be like, oh, I forgot my naloxone kit at home. That's like me as a diabetic saying I forgot my insulin. Unfortunately, there's addicts everywhere, and you never know where that overdose is going to hit. So just be ready.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I take the second to say, thanks for sharing, because I can't imagine what it's like to go through what you went through as a parent, and kudos to you for doing everything you did. And honestly, bravo to your daughter for overcoming and just turning out the way she did. So, well,
I'm not going to say the struggle isn't over, because it really is a day by day, right? So there's always counseling, there's always therapy. Just keep talking, keep talking, keep talking. Secrets kill, truth heals. So keep talking.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we could get to a part of the podcast where we'll kind of shift focus a bit. If you'd like to join, I was thinking maybe we could play a little bit of a game. You versus Kate.
Newfoundland.
Yeah. Seeing as you're a former Ottawa resident, but you're now a resident, hopefully expert in Newfoundland, I thought I would browse the internet, and I found, courtesy of CBC Kids, a quick 10-question quiz about Newfoundland. And I figured I would ask Caitlin.
Hey,
and
it's my favorite place in the world.
Well, there you go. I'll ask Caitlin first and see what her answer is, and she'll answer, and then I'll give you a chance to answer.
We're gonna do it rapid fire.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
If you guys are ready, we can begin.
Let's go.
True or false? Ready? True or false? When you're in Newfoundland, you'll find yourself in a different time zone that exists only for this province.
True?
False. We share it with Saint Pierre and Miquelon.
Oh, do you? I had true
nice.
here.
Nice.
France.
That's France. Okay, nice.
France.
Caitlin,
Yes.
what is Newfoundland's capital? Is it St. John's or St. John?
It's ST''S. And St. John, SAINT, John is New Brunswick.
Brunswick.
Nova
Do
Scotia.
you agree?
Nova Scotia.
Brunswick. Brunswick.
There you
St.
go.
John's with the
You got the bonus question.
ST''.
All right. I'm going to ask you, Taralee, this one. See if you get it. The island of Newfoundland is home to fewer species of wild animal than mainland Canada. Which of these animals is not found on the island? Moose, snowshoe horse, raccoon, or beaver?
Raccoons.
Caitlin, do you agree or disagree? Raccoon, beaver, snowshoe horse, or
No,
moose?
no trash pandas in Newfoundland? Really?
No raccoons
My
in
friend
Newfoundland,
who
apparently.
actually, my friend who came down to actually move my daughter, there was a raccoon in our garbage as we were moving, and she was like, "Oh my God, it's so cute! I want to pet it." I was like, "Oh my God, no, you don't."
Oh, they're such bad vermin. Several First Nation groups, including Inuit, Innu, and Mi'kmaq, make Newfoundland and Labrador their home. But what percentage of Canada's Indigenous people do you think live in the province? Is it less than 5%, 5 to 10%, or more than 10%?
Less than 5.
It is less than
Less
5.
than 5.
And that's one thing they want to highlight. Though it is a small population, the whole province is a small population, but there is a lot of rich cultural Indigenous history, so you can check it out when you're there. If you visit Lons aux Meadows National Historic Site in Newfoundland, you can see the archaeological remains of the settlement from 1,000 years ago. Who were the early explorers? Was it A, the Chinese, B, the Vikings, C, the Greeks, or D, the Persians?
It was the Vikings.
Do you
It's gotta
agree?
be
Or
the
dis-
Vikings.
It was the Vikings, yeah. It's
It's
pretty
the
cool.
Vikings.
They
I
were
mean,
like
they're
several
close to
years
Iceland.
before that. Samuel de
But they're
Champlain.
close to Greenland and Iceland.
The government introduced an animal to Newfoundland that reproduced a lot. Which one was it? The moose, the river otter, the lynx, or the red fox?
I
Correct.
say moose.
They're apparently everywhere. Is that true?
Yeah, you don't want to drive at night. You avoid the
that's
highways,
terrifying.
Wow.
especially. They're like rodents, big rodents.
True or false? Until 1949, Newfoundland and Labrador had its own currency. Caitlin? True or false?
I don't know. I never come up in conversation.
It's true.
It's true.
It's
Do you know
true.
do you know what it was called? I don't.
Newfound bucks?
Newfound
I don't
bucks.
know.
A bunch of cash. One of the most
Bunch of
famous
cash.
sites in Newfoundland is Cape Spear, an iconic lighthouse. Which of these is true of this heritage site? Cape Spear is the most easterly point in North America. Cape Spear
Yes.
is the most easterly point in Canada. Newfoundland's
Yes.
oldest surviving lighthouse is at Cape Spear, or all of the above.
All of the above, right?
All
Correct.
above.
All of the above.
What do you
If
call?
you go to Cape Spear, you're the first person in North America to see the sunrise, right?
All right. Yeah, that's
And you
right.
have done that, right?
I have done that. Yes,
pretty
absolutely.
cool.
It's beautiful.
On the ocean? That would be, yeah. I've never been to Newfoundland.
Absolutely. Seeing that fog roll in is a whole experience.
I gotta get it that way. What do you call someone from Newfoundland? A Newfoundlandian, a Newfoundlander, a Newfoundling, or a Newfoundlist?
Newfoundlander.
Oh yeah,
Newfoundlander.
of course. And the last one we're gonna
You're
ask.
a mainlander. I'm a Newfoundlander.
Do they actually? Is that true? We're mainlanders? That's what
Yeah,
they
it's
call-
true. You're a
pretty cool.
mainlander.
That's pretty cool. Every province has their own unique way of saying things. If someone in Newfoundland said, "You're some crooked," what would they be saying? Would they be saying, "You look really tired," "You're cranky," "Your tire is flat," or "You're not telling the truth"?
You're cranky.
Correct. Have you used that one yet?
Yeah. Absolutely. You're some crooked today, bye.
Do you find yourself picking up an accent since you've been there?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, I have a question for you guys.
Sure.
If someone's to say to you, and there's a whole ceremony when you get screeched in, so we're not going to do the ceremony today, but if somebody was to say to you, "So I ask ye, are ye a Newfoundlander?" What would your response be?
Fuck yeah.
I want to be.
It says, indeed I is me old cock, and long may your big jib draw.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
I'm definitely going to say it if I'm there.
I'm gonna break it down for you. So indeed I is me old cock. Yes, I am my old friend. And long may your big jib draw. May you always have wind in your sails.
That's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, at least I didn't make you kiss the puffin or the cad.
Well, if things are in good fortune, Caitlin, you've been out there and you fell in love with the province. I got to get my way out there eventually. I've heard
It's
wonderful
magic.
things, and to be honest with you, I've only ever met wonderful people from there. Very hardworking people and just incredibly kind. So, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It was I know it's for a lot of people a difficult subject to hear, but it's very real, and I think you shared a really important message from Caitlin, and I thank you so much for that. And congratulations to your daughter. And honestly, hats off to you for being such an amazing mom. And thank you.
Thanks. Thanks. That's ours. I'll take that.
And that's it, guys. That's episode 21 of the What's Your Thing podcast. Thank you very much for coming on. And if you like our podcast, we encourage you, share it with your friends, like it, comment on it. And you know what? Everybody has a thing. We want to hear from you. What's your thing?
See you next week, everybody.
So make sure to check us out. whatsyourthingpod.com. Check us out on Instagram, YouTube. Follow us on TikTok. Check us out. We're going to have a blast. What's your thing?
What's your thing?